going on to our next question, which is, we kind of touched on it, which was, if you want to get into this, maybe starting off for free while you're working your day-to-day job, which could be something completely different than this
Mhm.
new hustle, or obviously trying to get into, a grow of some type of getting that hands-on experience. So there's kind of two ways of going about this. But let's say once you have a separate job, you have your own personal income that you're keeping all your expenses paid, and then you kind of start this as maybe a side hustle.
Mhm.
What advice would you give about pricing the product or service of maybe just doing microscope work or just microscope analysis of soil tests? How would you say to kind of start the pricing for that service?
So that's as far as just the microscope work. When we came out of the school at that time, Earthfort was charging $154 or something. At that time, Dr. Elaine was suggesting people to charge like $60. And the advisors that had gone through the program that I had formed a mentee relationship with were doing that $60 sample, and they were struggling point blank. And so, just as a business mind, I'm like, look, Earthfort charges $154, and literally the reason why I got my first work is people couldn't understand the Earthfort reports and they couldn't understand how they helped. And so, no disrespect to Earthfort, but I don't think they provide any measurable benefit to the agricultural community, and they're charging $154. So to me, I said, why would I charge half or a third of what this organization is charging that provides no measurable benefit when I'm actually providing a measurable benefit? So to me, we started at $150 for the sample, and I still think that's appropriate. People that are on our contractual client agreements, we charge them $100. And what you have to understand is there's two factors. One factor is the time value of money. Even if you're fast, like if you really blast through an easy sample, might take you 45 minutes. Keisha with Catalyst is quite fast. Sarah's quite fast. Dr. Lane's quite fast. When I was doing it every day, I could do a sample in under an hour. If I only had to do one, I could do it in about 45, 48 minutes. But just say it's going to take you an hour. Then it's going to take another 15, 20 minutes to fill out your report, put together any comments. And then we always talk to the farm. So for that $150, I also will have a phone call with you. So I feel that we're extremely over providing the value for that $150. I think another important consideration about being a business is if your price is too low, people don't take it serious. And
Mhm.
I take this extremely serious, and I don't want toe dippers. I want people that are at least find it valuable to pay for this analysis that can literally give them 30% increase in yield. We
Mhm.
just started with a farm. Um, man, I always got to pause. You don't give too many details; you make people uncomfortable. But nonetheless, essentially, what we provided them is going to be an $840,000 increase on this one harvest revenue,
Mhm.
and we did like $2,500 in soil samples. If you can't see
Mhm.
the value in that, I don't want to work with you, and because I have an extreme value for what I do and provide, I know my net worth to a contribution to a project. So there's a certain
Mhm.
level of seriousness. If you don't charge enough, people don't value it enough, and then they won't listen to it. And then so now you're all just kind of wasting your time. So I feel that if you're doing a quantitative analysis with a report, it should at least be $150. If you
Mhm.
look at the cannabis soil testing, to do a potency testing on your flower, it's $145.
Mhm.
And that tests 12 parameters. So I don't know.
So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to pricing the product and making sure that you're pricing according to the value that you're giving the people, it kind of goes back to Elaine's original commandment, I would say, which is site assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's really serious about giving you a phone call, and this is us giving advice to them, I guess, is if they're going to take the time to call you to say we want a soil sample test of what's in our soil, and you're going to outline what you're going to test, the data you're going to give them, and the explanation what that means. And I would also ask them, kind of make it the interview go the other direction as well, to say, where are you at this point? what is your yield? What are you shooting for? Giving you asking the client those kinds of questions is letting them know that you really care about their goal to get this information and what to do with it, and how improving the biology to a certain point, even if that's all you know and not chemistry. Even if improving the biology is going to give them a 10% increase, that $150 for that initial consultation is really nothing to them in the aspect of their entire stream of expenses that they have to spend for everything else. So just to get a
Mhm.
quick snapshot of, okay, what am I looking at for somebody who can quantify this data of what's in the biology, and bringing that aspect to them. Again, it's all about the customer experience, in my opinion. It's all about, okay, what questions and what data are you gathering from them other than the soil sample and those kinds of things, in my opinion, in order to give them a $150 presentation that's worth way more than that.
Mhm.
So I think that's where we really have to get it to.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to provide value. I'm not at all advocating charging $150 and just shooting five numbers back. Like, you need
Mm-hmm.
to, especially from this camp, there's a lot of resistance against biological matters, whether you realize it or not. The mineral people, the online retailers of goods, they put a tremendous effort to cause doubt and discredit this entire wing. And so you have to overcome that. And so Sarah and I, compared to a lot of our peers in the cannabis space, have very conservative rates, and we always over provide. I always feel that a good business strategy, and you and I talked about your automotive business offline, that you do the same exact thing. You have to take good notes. You have to provide value. You have to provide a clear roadmap. And sometimes you're not that profitable on everything you do. Sometimes, like the project I just told you about that gave over $800,000 in increase, or 400,000, whatever it was, tremendous amount.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Part of the reason why I did that was for the case study. So I got some
Mm-hmm.
really good metrics out of it. So I didn't get enough money to retire on it. I changed that farmer's world substantially. But for me, I got some really good metrics on something I wanted. So sometimes you have to do work for a different value. Sometimes you have to do work to foster relationship. Sometimes you have
Mm-hmm.
to do
Mm-hmm.
work to build your brand. And so for the first 2 years, we provided astronomical return on investment for the work that we provided. And for the first 2 years, operated very lean. We were very budget minded. We didn't spend money.
Mm-hmm.
We were living out of a hotel on a NutriBullet doing protein shakes. We weren't living lavish.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't buy new stuff. We just bought microscopes, tools, and built our brand and built our name. And that will forever take care of me. Like, that's, you
So
know,
you built you had expectation at one point, and then the actual conclusion of service provided was much more. And that's, I would say, what ultimately built your brand to be as successful as you are. And that's pretty much what everybody's going to have to do,
mhm.
is get down in the mud and be in the trenches for a while, learn all that information, learn how to talk with. I mean, it's called soil consultation for a reason, because you're consulting with the person. They're not just a customer. They're not just somebody just exchanging money. You're literally having to break that shell in some cases by creating an emotional attachment to get all the variables that they may just be almost embarrassed about.
Mhm.
I've been using pesticides for 10 years and I
Mhm.
really don't want to. And I've been doing that, but they don't want to tell you that. So it's almost like you have to create that relationship,
Yep.
crack that shell open, bring the walls down so that you can really create a better change with the information that and their ability to accept it.
Yeah, no changes happen without trust. The trust isn't built without a qualification of the experience. And one of the things with me with cannabis is I have a functional foundational knowledge of all the hydroponic techniques. I can relate to the farmer on stuff that they know about to qualify to them that I know what I'm talking about. And then we shift to biological matters. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to speak intelligently about something that they are comfortable with. I have to speak intelligently about something that they're doing. And then I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now that I'm qualified in your mind to speak as an authority on matters, this is something I'm an authority on that you're not familiar with. And that's how you move them towards the goal. And so in order
Mm-hmm.
to do that, you have to have that experience. You have to build that foundational knowledge. And then you have to figure out how to build trust with people, and you just have to deliver. Plain and simple, you have got to deliver.
So on our last two closing questions, we went over a lot of information at this point
Mhm.
for people looking for these questions answered that maybe they're a little bit lost at this point. So if somebody had additional questions that we didn't cover in this video, what would you acquire of them to really, because like we had talked before, you get almost these weekly.
Mhm.
So hopefully this video covers a lot of those questions. But if somebody had additional questions that maybe didn't get answered or is not provided by the FC forum on the Soil Food Web's
Mhm.
website, uh, I would say what would you be looking for in order to say, hey, yeah, I will take the time to answer a few of your questions. What are the prerequisites?
Well, again, I think it's part of my duty to field some of these questions. Other advisors that have been successful have gotten burnt out on a lot of these, and they take a stance of no longer taking the questions. I feel it comes back to part of the humility. And so for me, remaining humble, I need to remember what it was like when I reached out to people. So, like, back when I graduated the course, and even now today, if you reach out to Earthfort, Matt Slaughter would yell at you and he would criticize Dr. I mean, it was just like a lashing. And when that happened to me, that didn't foster a relationship between me and him or even a level of respect. It made me say, I'm going to take this dude out. And so I think it's important to, um, you know, uh, to remain humble. And so I need to remain humble and remember what it was like when I graduated and I was desperately looking for answers on where to go, and they weren't there
Sure,
and they were not available.
sure.
And the people that were in the established top were really good at swatting down at newcomers. And I believe
Mm,
that this is a cooperative movement. And so for me, if you come at me that same way, like it's very common, no disrespect to this younger generation, I'm 40, but some of these younger kids, good God, they are so entitled when they call and they just start demanding answers about pricing and all this stuff. And it's like, look, man, if you were starting to department store, try and call Walmart, get Sam Walton on the line and ask him what his profit margins are. Like, good luck with that. Good luck with that in any other business. And so for me, the first part is you need to come correct to me and understand that you are a competing business in the same markets that I am with the same trends. And if you want my advice, come correct. Don't call and demand. Like you, I'm willing to do this video with you because of how respectful you approached me on that first call, how you and I talked. You were so polite and respectful. And I'm not saying you got to bow down to me or none of that shit, but like,
but
don't come and
courtesy
start.
goes a long way.
Yeah, don't. So there's people I don't talk to, but it starts with basic principles. My phone number is available online. I'll put it in the description. My email is available. I really try to get back to everybody that reaches out to me. A lot of people call, don't leave a message. If you call and leave a message, 99% of the time I'll call you back. Sometimes I forget. You sent me a text. I responded to the text. We set up a call. You've been extremely polite and respectful, and there's a value that you're providing to me as well. And so it needs to be a symbiotic, reciprocal relationship like this fungal hyphae above our heads, right? And so
Mm,
I feel that it's my role to provide a certain level of guidance. I feel that it's your role to understand that you are becoming a competing business going after my bag, so to speak, right? In slang terms. And just be respectful with that. I'm going to try my best to keep up with all the comments in these respective videos. My email's out there. You can reach out. I do feel that it's time for us to change our role a little bit and move into teaching businesses. I've said from day one when I went through Dr. Lane's program, there is not enough business support. People need a contract. People need a mentorship on how to manage their business. I think I'm finally ready to tackle that. And Sarah and I are in the storyboard stage of putting together a master class. And I just
where can we find that class once it's available?
So, obviously check in with these videos. I'll put it in the description as it develops and check with our new website. Sarah's finalizing a new website as we're creating this video. That will have a lot of it. That new website allows us to host video programs and have subscription type aspects. And so, first step, stay in tune with, your YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. I'll try to keep up with the comments as much as possible and update as the time goes. It will absolutely be announced on my website, which is crescivesoil.org, which is spelled Crescive soil.org. When I came out of the black markets, I was super nervous. I didn't want to be found. And so I chose a really hard name, and it stuck, and the business stuck, and we made it. And now I've got this really hard name, which is kind of funny. So think about your name. When you go to decide your business name, it's not what you think is important. If you think it's a good name, call an 800 number and try and give them your email for that website over the phone. If they can't get it, it's a bad name. That's how you choose a
Yeah.
business name. So people need to be able to find you. People have a hard time spelling our name, which was the original goal. I don't want to be found, but here we are being found.
Well, so I would employ anybody listening that,
Mhm.
Scott is an extremely good guy giving out information basically to all his potential competitors in the
Mhm.
market. Now, I think one thing that he recognizes with a lot of other people in this growing movement is that there are enough customers for all of us to have successful businesses, which is why we're talking about this.
Mhm.
I was looking at the data between 1971 in 2019, and the world's population more than doubled in a 50-year period.
Mhm.
So I think we'll have plenty of people because of the growing food market in order to have enough clientele, which I think he recognizes, in order to kind of get this information out as much as possible and promote what's going on, but also at the same time realize if you're calling Scott trying to get information from him, you're
Mhm.
technically a competing business. So be nice, be courteous. He's willing to give you the information. And so, I mean, if you're going to take that step forward, then if you can put on that hat to just be as nice as you can and courteous, then I think you'll get a lot of bees with that honey.
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally. It's basic interpersonal skills, right? And the one request I have is just respect the process and understand how serious this is. People really underestimate how serious Sarah and I take our job. Like, this is such important work. And I think the hard part of my evolution has been like when I came through cannabis during the OG era, if you had one of those OGs, you did not share. You didn't even share it with friends. You
hmm
just
hmm
cropped it out and, did your deal. And in cannabis, it's still that same way. Like I'm really shocked at how little the farms that we've worked with have talked about our success. All these people that talk about regeneration and saving the planet, if they were really about it, they would share the results that my wife and I have
hmm
provided for them, and they don't.
hmm
And I don't blame them for that too much because it is a dog eat dog world out there, especially in cannabis. But the reality is, whether people want to or not, or believe in it or not, the only way humans are getting out of this alive is by addressing the biological matters on the planet. And whether the planet turns into Mad Max or turns back into the permaculture paradise that the Native Americans and indigenous peoples put, this is going to happen, whether you like it or not. And
hmm
Sarah and I have worked on ecological restoration projects with the NCRS, which is the National Conservation and Resource Services. I've quantified the forest. It's literally halfway to the succession needed to support that ecosystem. We are already knee deep in desertification. We are already knee deep in climate change, climate instability, climate shit show, whatever you want to call it. It is here. It cannot be denied. And in my
hmm
opinion, the only way humans are going to get out of this alive is if they do this work. And that's why now Sarah and I are willing to change our focus a little bit to help other businesses because there hasn't been a lot of people behind Sarah and I, Nick Tomasini, Todd Harrington, that have really made measurable financial stability. Catalyst has
hmm
done pretty good making compost. So they've done pretty well maintaining, but as a compost producer. And it just, you know, we can really only maintain 8 to 10 long-term farming relationships at a time. We take
hmm
on one random farm a week. Like that's so little in comparison. We've worked with well over 200 farms, well over 2 million square feet of cannabis cultivation space literally around the world. And we're not even scratching the surface of the literal need. And we just need more
Well,
people to do this work.
as you mentioned, it is in the infancy right now for what kind of work that we're doing.
Mhm.
And I would kind of agree or maybe disagree on the point that you had made earlier about there's some big companies that are out there that will try to take us out. But at the same time, they're also all talking about microbes. They're not talking about the specific things that we talk about, but they are talking about microbes. So they're kind of ushering in the door for us to get in there and say, you know, everybody's talking about microbes and all these popular places and all these chemical companies and saying, oh, microbes this, buy this micro product, that micro product.
Hmm.
At this point, we can say this is what's in this micro product. So if there's more of us, there's a lot more voices that can quantify those kind of things, not jumping into the market and trying to, you know, change around this farmer's production or yield, but just start testing things, going to Lowe's and then, you know, getting some bag soil and say, what's in this Lowe's stuff that says it's got microbes in it? Because everybody says they have microbes now. And testing those kinds of things and getting that data out there, that's
Hmm.
as a group, as a community, I would say that's what's going to take the micro conversation to the next level where we can actually tell people what's in certain things. And I think that accountability will
Hmm.
take that market and actually bring it to a much higher level where maybe there are big players in there who actually take the time to make sure it's precisely what they're advertising, because there's a huge group of people that are coming out of this kind of coursework that can actually say, hey, this is true or this is not true. And I think that's the big thing about it, is that you don't need to necessarily go out there and change, you know, a farm the way Scott's doing. You could start it at your local community to say, hey, we only have a place to get, we have all these, you know, small market gardens that maybe sell compost, and this place is the best. Don't get this stuff over from your local hardware store because they just get it from this mass producer that's just cooking everything, and all it is anaerobic bacteria or anaerobic microorganisms, and it's just going to kill your plants. If you can do that in your local community, I would say that's going to be the benefit to you and the people around you, your local influence. You don't have to go travel the world to create change. You could do it right there with this information in your local neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. I would just say be careful of publicly outing products that are bunk. That would be my one advice.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
advice, you
maybe,
know.
or just find the best ones. Find the
Yeah.
ones that you would say is, I tested all these different places, and maybe
Hmm.
I'm not going to name names, but the best one I found is this. So maybe
Hmm.
you're not necessarily going bat to bat with a big company and
Hmm.
what they are already producing, but maybe finding in your community of your region of your state where the best compost production is coming from, in
Hmm.
order to tell people this is the best thing, promoting that small business that is doing it right.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what we do in our consulting work. We qualify inputs with the microscope. We let them choose the things they think we want to use. They want to use. We put them on the microscope, share the data, and then they can form their own opinion. I prefer to work that way.
Mhm.
There's a tremendous amount of backlash if you publicly post um, the shenanigans of the biological concerns in the industry and how incorrect the advice is. But, you know, if you want to try that, I'd say go for it. I personally try to work directly with the farmer one-on-one where we can control those conversations and keep them from getting out of control. The crazy part about once you get to a certain level is I'm now of a level of influence that if I speak disparagingly about a product, I'll get non-disclosure. I'll get cease and desist and I'll get lawsuit threats. So if you're going to do that type of stuff, do it before you're somebody, and then stop doing it when you're viewed as some whatever that means. But and I don't even know when that transition happens. There was a very clear point when it happened for me, and I didn't even know that I was that influential. And so Dr. Elaine, there's a lot that she doesn't say because she'll get sued off the planet. And so I don't really know how that works where you like get a certification stamp on your driver's license or whatever. But there is a certain point where you make a certain level of influence that if you even just share basic data of how biologically absent a given product is, that then becomes an attack to a business, and then there are real repercussions. So, but yeah, that's the work that needs to be done. You know, the people
So,
in the cannabis industry specifically are just could not be more remarkably incorrect on biological matters. And so that leaves a tremendous opportunity for people that are correct on biological matters. And it leaves a tremendous number of farms that are way off base that could be put back in line. And so, however you choose to approach that is your own prerogative. I choose to work one on one quietly.
so our last question,
Hmm.
Scott, in closing, what would what has been the most unexpected outcome of this soil food web journey?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think there's kind of two aspects to that, I guess. I guess the first aspect would be how long it's been for narratives to change. Like when I started offering my microscope services to the internet at large in 2015, 2016, I never dreamed that in 2021, the same people would still be saying the same incorrect information, especially after I've shared with them that it's problematic. You know, there's a couple people I've literally shared one-on-one in private, like, yo, you're putting farms out of business. This advice is incorrect from this standpoint, from biological matters. This is my correction in those situations. This is how you should update your information. And they don't update that information. And I don't want to assume or assert why that is. I think at least 50% of it is ego based. And I think a lot of it is it's maybe people that are not having the best interests of the organic community in mind, paying for that type of misinformation and doubt creation. So that's been a real bummer to me, honestly, that weighs on my heart and kind of makes it hard to really love what I do, because we are literally running on a runaway train towards catastrophic climate disaster and the extinction of human beings. And some of the people that are given the badge of regenerative heroes are literally accelerating that train with terrible advice, whether directly or accidentally, indirectly through ego-based matters. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the main point. I really thought that the market, well, I guess the second point to that question is, or the second answer to that question is, I'm flat out shocked at the reaction to my contribution to the market. I thought for sure
Mm-hmm.
when I started this, that when I did the work that nobody was willing to do, to put in the time and effort to put in the hours needed to do the quantitative analysis, that when I provided that information back to the market, a lot of times the reaction is not strong and a lot of the reactions are very negative. And I thought for sure, like I always wanted to let the farms be the voice of the work, and we would never
Mm-hmm.
talk about our work. We are working behind the scenes with people in the top of the industry. They have brands to manage. It's not my place to come out and go, yo, Johnny Z had a catastrophic crop loss and this is what we figured out. Like that's not up to
Mm-hmm.
me. And so I take a role of being the silent operator behind the scenes. And I thought for sure some of the farms at this point would be like, yo, Scott and Sarah came in. We got a 30% increase in yield in all categories. Our total cannabinoids went up by 10 points. We are blowing everything out of the water. And I'm really disappointed in a lot of the people in the regenerative community and cannabis, especially, that hold that stuff secret for their own personal gain, which I understand why they're doing it. I'm just saying we are on a runaway train towards climate crisis. They're defining this time period in our history as the sixth mass extinction, which includes the human species. That's real, real, real shit. And the people that wave the banner of the regenerative community, I think, are doing the most damage. And so I personally feel it's time for people to get out of the way. And I think it's time for new people to stand up. And I think it's time for new people that are qualified with this microscope technique to stand up and make their voice heard and make an impact on the market and try to give the humans that want to survive this sixth mass extinction a pathway, an opportunity for providing food crops, for managing water resources, for managing the health of the planet. This is literally the most valuable, important work on the planet, and that's why I've given my life to it, like very literally. And there's plenty of opportunity out there. There's plenty of work, and I'm going to do my best to provide the support for the people that make that leap. Within reason, obviously, we all got to be businesses, but that's the commitment I've made. And I'm following in line with Dr. Elaine. Like, I know this work is real in my heart. I'm not going to stop, and I'm going to keep pushing through regardless of what the world presents me. And we need other people to do that. We need other people to join in this work. We need other people to educate farms. There is so much need right now, and not one business, not one person can do it. It takes a coalition. It takes a cooperative movement. It very literally takes a movement. and we need people to be a part of that movement.
That's awesome. I
Hmm.
completely agree.
Hmm.
Um, I honestly, I just want to thank you for taking the
Hmm.
time, Scott, to really answer all these questions. I was just thinking, I'm probably going to talk to Dr. Lane and or maybe put it on the FC forum that there's a link to this video
Nice.
that they can find it and have a lot of the students that are either within the course or have graduated that are still having conversations on this course
Hmm.
to see this kind of information coming directly from a consultant who's been in the trenches and who's creating success, but also running into obstacles that pretty much is going to take this student school of army school
Hmm.
army to really to bring the voice of what you're saying out into the public. And like we had both said, the school seems to be growing rapidly,
Hmm.
and the student base seems to be growing rapidly. And I think that if they can get this information and kind of run with it, hopefully not trip over as many of the deadfalls that happen in the industry, things that
Yeah.
you've been through in order to avoid those, but help promote the situation and not lose students to jumping in too quickly
Yeah.
and then just completely walking away after botching startup
Hmm.
business.
Yeah.
I think that's really what's going to help create the change you're talking about.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And again, and thank you for joining on this. I have a lot of conversations like this, and I'm willing to have them over and over again, but in the effort of streamlining the process and being more effective with my time, I really appreciate you coming on and participating in this with me, and anywhere you want to share it, that's fantastic. Again, I cannot underestimate the value that Dr. Lane's courses has provided to my life. I literally met my wife. It's changed my entire life. It took me from having a goal of trying to make more than $20 an hour while I had recovered from a brain injury to literally traveling around the world doing literally dream. This is dream stuff for me. And I wake up every day excited about the value I get to provide to farms. And, I just can't underestimate how unique Dr. Lane is in that she evolves. She removes the emotion from the critical assessment, and we learned that from her, and incorporate the scientific process to make radical change to all markets every day. And, we just need more people to do this work. Like she says, there's more research to be done. I can't do it all.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, man.
completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, man.
And if anybody wants to check out more on Crescive Soil, you can check out his website
Mhm.
or all the links that he has posted. And I will also post those links in my description as well.
Thank you, man.
All
Good
right,
luck,
thanks, Scott.
guys. Yeah. Talk to you later.